with the first pick in the WNBA Draft.
Welcome to NBA TV Canada's WNBA 2021 Draft Preview Show. Savanna Hamilton alongside Amy Audibert. Amy, what a past season the WNBA has had. It's actually going into their 25th anniversary. And man, they dropped some fire jerseys last week. They've also seen a 68% growth in viewership, mainly due to the fact that they had nationally televised games. But Amy, before we get into the draft, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Well, I'm certainly feeling for the GMs and the front offices right now going into the draft. Over 55 players have now declared out of the NCAA and even around the world for 36 spots. There's only 12 teams in 3 rounds. So they certainly have their work cut out for them, evaluating and trying to find the best fit. So I'm excited that we get to chat about it, but really to see where they end up picking these young women.
Absolutely. And we have to get right on into it because we have a lot of women to talk about, but we could only have time to talk about our top 6 picks. So the undisputed, well, with little dispute, I should say, across the board has been the number 1 pick, CHARI Collier. And, she's a 6'5" center coming out of Texas. She plays for the Longhorns. Amy, what makes her the number 1 pick in this draft this year?
Well, I like all number 1 picks have some certain presence or swag to them. Check. CHARI walks into the gym and everybody knows she's here to play. You said she's 6'5". She's got a frame. She's worked incredibly hard to be in fantastic shape. So those intangibles, she's already taken care of. But let's talk about her play on the court. 19 double-doubles on the season for the Longhorns. She's got great presence with her back to the back. She's really solid on the low block and fundamentally sound with her feet. This season, however, Sav, she's done a great job also displaying that mid-range game. She can knock down that jumper. Oftentimes, she's going up against more than one defender, right? A lot of doubles or downs. She's still figured out a way to shoot 51% from the field, and she's very active on the glass as well, has a true knack for the ball. Of course, for CHARI, the big adjustment, like most centers or forwards going from college to the WNBA, is that physicality and how she handles that. But Dallas has the number 1 pick, and it's hard to imagine them going any other way but Miss CHARI Collier.
Absolutely. And one thing to note about her as well is the fact that she is declaring as a junior. And, when she was 16 years old, unfortunately, her dad actually lost the battle with cancer. But before he passed away, he said that he envisioned her as the number 1 pick of the WNBA. And, I think that has really motivated her to see through what happens on Thursday night. So I'm looking forward to it. We have to move on to our second pick, which can be none other. And, once again, potential still. It could all change on draft night. But what we have is a walk queer, and she has been a 6'5" forward coming out of Finland. She plays in the Euro League right now. What makes her so intriguing to a GM in this draft, Amy?
Well, I'm still not sold on that term point forward or point center, but this is exactly who it's made for. 6'5". You mentioned that, but when you go watch film on her, first thing I saw was a step back 3. Bam! I mean, she's so clean. I've also seen her split traps in the open court to headman a fast break. She can attack from the 3 and get to the cup in 1 to 2 dribbles max. You mentioned that she's already playing in the Euro League on an Italian team. Her numbers aren't ridiculous. 9 points, 7 rebounds, 2 blocks, 19 years old. And Dallas also with that second pick as of right now, she plays on that team with one of their players in Isabel Harrison. And so I'm wondering if that actually helps her quite a bit to adjust to the W. Savanna, this is a ceiling draft, and I maybe am the most excited in a walk's potential.
Exactly. I think it's the upside that has everybody, you and I alike, excited to see where she ends up on draft night. And she has a really interesting backstory. As she was born in Egypt. She moved to Finland at the age of 2 and came there as a refugee. And so I'm very curious to see where her next stop will be, potentially Dallas, on Thursday night. You can watch the 2021 WNBA Draft on NBA TV Canada, April 15th at 7 p.m. Eastern. Now, joining us is ESPN Basketball Analyst LaChina Robinson. LaChina, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Savanna. Thank you so much for having me. I will say I've never been to Canada, but it is on my bucket list. So being with you guys today is the closest I've been So I'm pretty pumped.
Well, we got to get you up here. But in the meantime, we have to talk about the WNBA and the fact that they just came off of a wobble season, and now they're going into the 25th year of the league. What are your season projections for this year?
Well, there's just an incredible energy and momentum in the WNBA right now, as you mentioned, coming off of a very successful wobble season where we saw the women of the WNBA really take their voice of social justice to the next level, on top of some incredible play and increase in ratings. So a lot of good energy. And, the NCAA tournament is always a good chance for us to get a look at what's coming into the WNBA. So we are also feeling this pretty magical feeling, as we head towards this season. We dropped some new jerseys, which are fire. So, I just think that right now the league is hot. Like, the WNBA's athletes and the league itself has done a nice job, but the attention and the eyes, I think, is what's most impressive. And we're seeing that the sport is growing in popularity and the product on the court is better than it's ever been.
LaChina, you mentioned there's so many exciting things going around this league, and we wish we had you forever today, but we don't. So the one team I want to ask you about is the Dallas Wings. How exciting for first-year head coach Vicki Johnson to be in this position. Last year in that first round, they had numbers 2, 5, and 7. This year, they've got 1, 2, 5, and 7. What do you think of this organization and what they're going to do in this upcoming draft?
Yeah, a lot of really fun things happening in Dallas. I mean, I'm really happy for Vicki Johnson. I mean, she's very deserving of this opportunity. The conversations over the last few years and for a while have been that former WNBA players haven't really gotten their shot consistently at being head coaches in the league. So you like to see Vicki that come around once again for her, and for her to be with a young Dallas team where she can really make an immediate impact and put her imprint on the organization. That's a lot of first round picks, especially in a draft that I would say is probably not as top loaded in terms of talent as we've seen in past seasons. I mean, in comparison, coming off of last year, there's no Breanna Stewart, there's no Asia Wilson in this draft. So it will be interesting to see what Dallas does. Obviously, they do have an opportunity to trade some picks. Though this draft is not as strong, I do think there could be teams that are interested in moving up a little bit to create some cap space. As we know, rookie contracts aren't as heavy. So, I wish I had my magic ball. I could tell you what Dallas is going to do. But either way, I'm looking forward to the future under Vicki's leadership.
LaChina, you've stayed so close to the game over the past couple of years. And, I want to know what the key is for you to the tight turnaround that we see. We see them going from playing in the NCAA to the draft night to rookie season. It happens so fast. What is the key for success for a player?
I think that's tough, Savanna, because my first thought is they need to rest because WNBA training camp is really competitive. I mean, on top of everyone else that's already signed on the roster, there are other players that are invited to camp. So it's hard to make a roster. So if you're just finishing up your college season, I would say rest if you can. But it also depends on how long your postseason was. If you didn't go to the NCAA tournament, you want to feel like you're working out a little bit coming in. If you did have a long run in the tournament, again, I think that rest is good for you, but it is tight. I think you have like 2 seconds to celebrate your college career, however that finished up. And then you just look ahead to life as a pro. And I think the most important thing is making sure you're mentally, physically, spiritually in the right places, because it's going to be a grueling training camp. And we usually see rookies hit a little bit of a wall midsummer just because they're going from college right into the WNBA. Most pros are used to coming from overseas and starting their professional season here. So it's exhausting, but I'm sure all the more exhilarating.
Yeah, people tend to forget that for women's basketball, it's an all-year thing, but especially coming from the NCAA tournament and competing your heart out, or, coming from your season, there's so much quality and rest that needs to be had. Now, you mentioned it earlier, the WNBA fire jerseys, and I saw that you got hooked up with a jersey already, so I'm kind of jealous, I won't even lie, but which ones are your favorites that you've seen?
Boy, when I got that box from the Washington Mystics, I was in shock and just couldn't believe it. I'm a Alexandria, Virginia native, so I'm from the DMV. I'm about 10 minutes from DC, if that, over the bridge. So that meant a lot as a DMV girl to get that package. But I love the meaning behind all of the jerseys. That's the biggest thing for me. Obviously, Washington and what they've done in their fight, their rise up, I think is phenomenal. But if I'm looking just at style points, I'm always like a all white or all black girl. So if I can get like a Vegas all white, I think are beautiful. I really love Phoenix because they're clean with the all white, all black, but they also have that kind of pop of neon color. So I would say those two are my favorites, but I just think they're fantastic. And of course, the Stranger Things in Indiana. I mean, come on, that's fire.
It was so good. Amy, I have to quickly ask you, what was your favorite jersey?
Yeah, I think the Phoenix one, I just love the color scheme on it as well. The one that popped, like LaChina said. But I mean, they really all have a story behind it. And I think that's the most incredible thing. Again, this league is just in such a great place, and the way that they're outreaching the community. And I mean, listen, I'll support anyone.
Well, I'm also on Team Phoenix over here with the gradient. That's so nice. That was the Explorer jersey, actually. But thank you so much, LaChina, for joining us. And I'm personally looking forward to the upcoming season.
Thank you guys so much for having me. Congratulations on all your hard work and all you two have accomplished. And we look forward to seeing you this summer.
As you see up on the board, we have Arella Garantes as our third pick of this draft. Now, if you take a look, she is first team all Big Ten, and Big Ten all defensive team. So, Amy, I have to ask you, what do you like about this versatile guard? Seeing she is big, she's 5'11".
Exactly, right? But the top of Arella's scout, a walking bucket. This is an elite 3-level scorer who can create her own shots, but also average 5 assists, so she can facilitate as well. But when you watch film on Arella, she can get to the rim with a certain toughness and grit. She's very crafty, but when she gets downhill, she's tough to stop. A little bit interesting about Rutgers, because of an impacted schedule due to COVID, they only played 19 games, which means they missed out games against nationally ranked opponents, Michigan, Maryland, and Northwestern. And so I would love to see how she matches up against those players, but she's going to get in the W pretty early. Third pick is Atlanta, and when you look at who they have in their backcourt, Odyssey Sins, Kennedy Carter, Courtney Williams, some of the most dynamic guards in the league. I would be so excited to see how Arella can take this skill set, especially on the offensive end, and play with those type of guards.
Now, she's ripe for the draft this year because she was actually planning on declaring for the draft last year, but felt the timing wasn't right. And I quote her when she says her work at Rutgers just wasn't quite finished. So we will see where she finishes on Thursday night. Now on the board, we have what will be the order for this year's draft. We already talked about the Dallas Wings as they have the first 2 picks out of a total of 4 in the first round. And, take a look at the first round a little bit closely, Amy. They only have 12 picks up there.
Yeah, that's it, right? And there's 3 rounds, so 36 picks total. There's only 144 roster spots in the W, and not a whole lot of turnaround, Sava. This is one of the most competitive professional leagues in the world to earn a spot in, and that's why every year, this draft is so nerve-wracking in some ways, because it's tough enough to get your name called, and then you got to get to training camp and fight for a contract.
Absolutely, and we have to get now to our 4th pick, which is Renaya Davis. She's a 6'2" combo guard out of the University of Tennessee. She's built her reputation on defense and rebounding. But Amy, what makes her play style stand out?
Well, 6'2" guard, right? Welcome to professional basketball. But that's because the average height on this Tennessee team this past year was 6'2". So she was able to really get out there on the perimeter and show some skill sets. I think Renaya is one of the more complete players in this first round in terms of both sides of the ball, right? You mentioned her defensive ability, but also she can score. She averaged 17, 9, 2 assists for the Lady Vols. Her size allows her to put some really solid pressure on the offensive rim as well. And so that's important in the W. One thing that maybe is a little bit something that Renaya is going to have to work on. She only shot 26% from the 3 in her senior year here. And so I do believe that's something that, when you are 6'2", you have to be able to at least be a threat from long. But because she's so good on both sides, it's going to earn her a first-round pick. And one more quick little nugget for you, Sav. Renaya is one of 4 players in Lady Vols history, one of the most storied NCAA basketball programs on the men's or women's side to rank in her career top 10 points total and points per game, rebounds total and rebounds per game. She sits among Tamika Catchings, Candace Parker, and Shamika Holzclaw. How about that?
That's incredible. And, you know, in her note, in her farewell note to Tennessee, she actually said when she was 10 years old, she had dreams bigger than anyone could imagine, which included playing professional basketball. So we'll see how her dreams pan out on Thursday night. Now, we also have to talk about Chelsea Dungy, the 5th pick, because she is looking to make her dreams a reality as well. She's a 5'11" guard, pretty versatile out of Arkansas. She's averaged over 22 points this season. Amy, what makes her so attractive to GMs in this draft?
This is yet another elite 3-level scorer available for this draft. And Chelsea played for an Arkansas Razorback team that's averaged 82 points per game, but her craft around the rim is next level. She shows off a variety of finishes that she has in that tool belt, but she can also shoot a 3. She shot right around 40% on her senior year, which means she's stretching every single defense. You look at what she did against UConn, 37 points, went 4 for 5 from long in that game, but then also 7 for 10 from the free throw line. So she can get it done anytime she has that ball in her hands. And she truly is electrifying to watch, not scared to step up in those big moments.
Listen, dropping 37 points against one of the historically best teams in the NCAA, UConn, is nothing to bat an eye at. But, you know, playing in the NCAA is one thing. Playing in the WNBA, as we addressed earlier, one of the top leagues in the world, is a whole different competitive level. Amy, how will her game translate to that level?
Well, that's what's really exciting about Chelsea. Playing the W, you're most often have 4 other teammates around you on the court that can score as well. And so it opens things up for you a bit more. So when we look at her consistent ability to hit, her toughness to get to the rim, her crafty finishes, listen, defenses have to play her a bit more straight up than maybe other leagues or divisions, because she also can facilitate and dish to anybody else who's hungry enough to score the ball as well.
Absolutely. Now, last but certainly not least, arguably the most popular name in this draft has to be our 6th pick, which is AARI McDonald. You know, she's performed so well in the NCAA tournament, honestly capturing the hearts of everybody, media, you and me included. She's a 5'6" guard, Amy. And what do you think, you know, makes her so valuable in this draft when she goes on Thursday night?
You mentioned 5'6", but let's not discredit Pac-12 Player of the Year, 2-time Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year. That's one of the tougher conferences in the country, and she's one of the best in it, right? But when I look at AARI, the number one thing I see, burst ability. She can get into the lane and collapse every single defense that she's been able to come across. Now, her size does at times look like a disadvantage, but I think she actually uses that to her advantage. She has an extremely quick trigger, which means she can get off a high clip at a very high rate, lots of shots, but then also she uses her body to get under bigger defenders, stepping up in big moments. You mentioned it. Before that final game against Stanford, she averaged 30 points per game in the NCAA tournament and dropped another 22. So always ready, always hungry. What a story for AARI McDonald.
And you know, something that maybe people don't know that much about her is actually she wrote in the Players Tribune how she was planning to declare as well in last year's draft, but, you know, stayed around, picked up a Pac-12 Player of the Year award, just so casually, of course. And she showed out for her seniors. She said that she really wanted to play this season for the seniors who couldn't last season because of obviously the COVID pandemic. And so we get to see her perform now and see where her next journey takes her. That rounds out our top 6 picks, but we have to talk about Shayna Pellington. The Pickering, Ontario native showed out in the NCAA tournament. Now she's still a junior at Arizona, but she's definitely someone to keep our eyes on, isn't she, Amy?
And she definitely showed out in the national championship, the biggest stage in women's college basketball, off the bench for 15 points, 7 rebounds and 3 steals. But it was the fire she brought, a lot of defense to offense. When she gets in the open court, she is tough to stop. She finished 5 of 12 from the field, but 5 of 6 from the free throw line as well. So she's very versatile, is a big threat on both ends. But right now, I think Shayna's focus is really flipping to Tokyo. She's one of 20 players available in the Olympic pool. So I'm excited to see what not only she does for our country, but for her own career. I hope we're talking about her a bit more this time next year. As we mentioned, Aari McDonald graduates. Shayna's she's got some big shoes to fill, but I'm looking forward to her doing that.
Absolutely. And also, we've rounded out now our top 6 picks, but we have to give some credit to our sleepers. Amy, who do you have that you think could, go unexpectedly high in this draft?
Yeah, I got Mrs. Versatility, 6-foot small forward, Michaela Onyenwere out of UCLA. I have her all season, averaged 19 and 7 over in the Pac-12. Not an easy place to live, but she's a great finisher around the rim, brings an element of toughness. But wow, can she also get out and run? The UCLA head coach, Carly Close, will tell you how she came in super raw, and over the 4 years, how she's developed so much. I think she fits the mold of a WNBA player, and I think she's going to be a sleeper. She will get picked in this draft, but I see her making an impact, if not immediately, definitely within the next 2 or 3 years of her career.
My sleeper has to be Jasmine Walker. She's 23. She's a senior coming out of Alabama. Roll Tide. And, she can shoot the 3 ball very well. She got first team all SEC, and she averages almost a double-double a game. Take that in with almost 20 points and 10 rebounds. Now, Amy, that wraps up our draft preview. You can catch the draft right here on NBA TV Canada. It's been a pleasure to break down these picks with you, and I'm feeling pretty good so far about it. How about you?
I'm feeling good, but I get anxious around the draft. I feel for these GMs, and I feel for these young women waiting for their name to be called. But Sav, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. From myself, Savanna Hamilton, and Amy Audibert, that concludes our draft preview show. Thank you guys for watching.